The message arrived late at night. "Sweetheart, we need to talk about the trip. We've decided to postpone it until next year." I stared at the screen, feeling my heart drop. Postponed? After months of careful planning, budgeting every cent, and adjusting my work schedule, this was supposed to be our first real family vacation in years. I had been counting down the days like a child waiting for Christmas morning. Without thinking, I called my mom. She answered with a sigh, her tone soft but tired. "Rachel, I know you're upset, but things are tight financially right now. We just can't swing it." I swallowed hard, trying to stay composed. I knew money struggles. I'd been putting in extra shifts at the cafe just to help make the trip happen. I'd even offered to cover my own flight. But the way she said it, like the decision was final, like my efforts meant nothing, cut deeper than she could imagine. Taking a slow breath, I suggested, maybe we could find a more affordable hotel or shorten the stay. She paused. Barely a second, but I noticed. "Rachel," she said gently, "this just isn't the right time. We'll make it happen next year." I promise. A promise. One I should have known better than to trust. 2 days later, on my lunch break at the cafe, I was scrolling through Facebook when my heart sank. There it was, a photo of my parents on a beach, smiling in the sunlight, drinks in hand, the ocean stretching endlessly behind them. My fingers trembled as I scrolled further. More snapshots appeared. My brother Ethan grinning next to his girlfriend on a boat. My parents laughing over seafood platters at a coastal restaurant. Then came the caption that made my blood run cold. "Family time is priceless." Family time. Except I hadn't been invited. I locked my phone and sat motionless at the counter, trying to convince myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was last minute. Maybe someone had gifted them the trip. But deep down, I knew the truth. The trip hadn't been postponed. I had just been excluded. That night, I didn't call my mother. I didn't comment on the post. I simply watched day after day as more photos appeared. Snorkeling adventures, beach bonfires, smiling faces, and not one of them was mine. Each image was another quiet reminder that I wasn't part of the picture. And slowly, something inside me hardened. It wasn't just this trip. It was every birthday they forgot, every holiday where Ethan got the perfect gift while mine felt like an afterthought, every time I bent over backward to support them and got nothing in return. I clenched my teeth and took a deep breath. They thought I'd stay silent, that I'd be hurt but let it go. They had no idea what was coming. A week later, I was waiting when they got home. I heard the taxi outside and watched from the kitchen window as my mom, Dad, and Ethan stepped out with tan skin and suitcases in tow. They looked tired, but relaxed, satisfied from the vacation I was never meant to be part of. They didn't know I had seen everything. The front door opened, and my mom stepped inside first. Her voice was cheerful, too cheerful. "Rachel." "Oh, sweetheart, I missed you. How have you been?" I crossed my arms, my voice flat. "Busy." My dad followed her in, setting his bags down. "That's good. How's work?" I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Work is all I've been doing. That, and scrolling through your vacation photos." Ethan walked in behind them, stretching with a yawn. "Man, I'm wiped. Traveling wears you out." He looked at me and smirked. "Hope you held down the fort while we were away." My gaze locked on him. While we were away, like this was normal. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't been sitting at home, abandoned and betrayed. I turned toward my mother, my voice unnervingly calm. "So, how was the trip?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, well, we just needed a little getaway. Nothing extravagant." Liar. I reached into my pocket, unlocked my phone, and held the screen toward them. The photo album. The beach. The boat. The fancy dinner. And the words I couldn't forget. "Family time is priceless." I tilted my head. "Looks pretty special to me." The silence that followed was heavy. Suffocating. Finally, my mom let out a forced laugh. "Rachel, I don't." My voice cut through her words. "Don't. Just stop. My dad tried to step in, his voice cautious. Sweetheart, it wasn't. Don't lie, I snapped, my voice rising. Tell me the truth. You didn't postpone anything. You just didn't want me there. I saw guilt flicker in my mother's eyes before she masked it with weak justification. It's not like that, honey. We just thought. What? I shot back. That I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't see the pictures? That I'd be dumb enough to believe your lie? Ethan groaned. Oh my God, Rachel, are you really blowing this up? It was just a trip. Just a trip. A trip I planned. I saved for. I was supposed to be part of. I shook my head, bitter laughter escaping. You could have told me the truth. Instead, you lied. You made me feel like I wasn't worth inviting. Ethan rolled his eyes. You're being dramatic. No, Ethan, I said, my voice steady for the first time. I'm finally telling the truth. My mom stepped forward, trying to reach for my hand. Rachel, please. I pulled back. No, not this time. They needed to hear this. Every word. This isn't just about the vacation, I said, voice trembling. It's about every moment I was made to feel like I didn't matter. Every holiday when Ethan got exactly what he wanted and I got whatever was easiest. Every time I put this family first and you didn't even notice. I paused, my throat tightening. I thought that if I worked hard enough, if I gave enough, maybe one day I'd finally be enough for you. But I never was I? No one said anything. Just silence. Then my mom sighed. Rachel, it's not like we love Ethan more than you. A small, bitter smile tugged at the corners of my lips. Maybe you don't, I said quietly. But it sure feels like you do. The silence that followed said everything. I nodded slowly, exhaling through my nose, then turned without another word. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the door. Rachel, where are you going? My dad called after me. I didn't stop, didn't turn around. Somewhere I'm actually wanted, I replied, and then I left. For the first time in my life, I chose me. In the days that followed, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages, missed calls, all from them. But I had made my decision. I wasn't going to be the one fixing everything this time. They could figure it out without me. I ignored the texts. I didn't pick up the phone. And even though silence had once felt unbearable, this time it felt freeing. At first, it was strange. The guilt crept in like a familiar shadow, whispering doubts into the back of my mind. Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you should be the bigger person. But then I'd remember the late-night message telling me the trip was postponed. I'd remember the smiling photos, the caption about family time, and the casual cruelty of being erased without a second thought. And suddenly, the silence didn't feel so heavy. It felt like peace. By the fifth day, their messages changed tone. What started as firm and dismissive attempts to control the narrative turned into something else. From Mom. Rachel, we need to talk about this. You're turning it into something bigger than it is. From Dad. Ignoring us won't solve anything. Please call your mother. From Ethan. Jesus, Rachel. Get over it. You're acting like a child. I rolled my eyes. Classic. They weren't sorry, they were just uncomfortable. But when I didn't respond, their messages softened. From Mom. Sweetheart, please. We miss you. We never meant to hurt you. From Dad. We didn't handle this right. Let's sit down and talk. Then the message that almost got to me. Rachel, I feel awful. I can't sleep knowing you're upset with us. For a split second, I hovered over the keyboard. But then a question hit me like a wave. If I hadn't seen the photos, would they have told me the truth at all? And I already knew the answer. So I locked my phone and let the silence continue. It wasn't easy. I had spent a lifetime being the one to reach out first. The one who soothed the wounds, even when they weren't mine to fix. But now, choosing stillness, choosing myself, it started to feel like healing. And then something dawned on me. They weren't missing me. They were missing the version of me that made their lives easier. The fixer. The mediator. The one who quietly absorbed all the hurt and never pushed back. And now that I was refusing to play that part, they didn't know what to do. A week after their return, I did something new. I booked a weekend trip, just for myself. Nothing luxurious, just a quiet cabin tucked in the mountains. I packed a small bag, grabbed my keys, and left. No explanations. No, is it okay if texts? No need to be included. For once, I was living entirely for myself. And it felt incredible. By the time I came home, my phone was full of missed calls and unread texts. But I didn't rush to reply. I wasn't ready, and I wasn't obligated. For the first time ever, I was choosing myself. And I wanted to savor that feeling a little longer. They weren't used to being ignored. So when my silence stretched longer than expected, I wasn't surprised when they showed up. That Saturday afternoon, I heard the knock on my front door. I had known it was coming. The moment I stopped answering their calls, I had known they'd eventually come in person. I set down my coffee cup. My hands didn't tremble. My breath was steady. I was ready. When I opened the door, my mom and dad were standing on the porch. But something was different. They didn't look defensive or annoyed. They looked uncertain, nervous. My mom's voice was soft. "Rachel," she began, shifting her purse. "Can we come in?" I leaned against the frame, arms folded. "That depends," I said calmly. "Are you here to actually listen, or to tell me I'm wrong for feeling the way I do?" My dad sighed. "We're here to talk. Really talk." I studied them. They weren't demanding to be let in. They weren't brushing off my feelings. They were asking, and that was new. I stepped aside. "Fine. Come in." We moved to the living room. My mom sat down with her hands clasped tightly, while my dad lingered by the doorway, like he wasn't sure he belonged. I sat across from them, arms crossed, waiting. Finally, my mom spoke. "I don't know where to start," she admitted. "Starting with the truth usually works," I said, my tone neutral but sharp. She flinched slightly. My dad inhaled deeply. "We messed up." I blinked. I hadn't expected that from him. My mom looked down at her hands. "When we said the trip was postponed, we lied." There it was. No excuses. No sugarcoating. Just the truth. My throat tightened. "Why?" She hesitated. Then quietly said, "We thought it would be easier." I clenched my jaw. "Easier for who?" Silence. "For you." I pushed. "For Ethan." I let out a bitter laugh. "Because it definitely wasn't easier for me." My dad rubbed a hand over his face. "We didn't realize it would hurt you this much." "You didn't realize anything," I snapped. My mom's voice cracked. "We thought you'd understand." I leaned forward. "Would you have ever told me the truth if I hadn't seen the photos?" They didn't answer. And that was the answer. I forced myself to speak, though my throat burned. "Do you have any idea what it felt like? Seeing you all having the time of your lives, knowing I was never even considered." Tears shimmered in my mom's eyes. "Rachel, we love you." I shook my head slowly. "You don't treat people you love like that." My dad let out a tired sigh, rubbing the back of his neck. "We failed you, sweetheart. We should have been honest." I looked from one to the other. "Why are you really here? Is this an apology, or are you just trying to make yourselves feel better?" They hesitated. Then my mom spoke honestly. "Both." At least that was the truth. We sat in thick silence. Finally, my mom whispered, "I don't know how to fix this." I exhaled, letting go of something I'd been carrying for far too long. "I don't either," I said. "But what I do know is this: I'm not going to be the one to fix it for you." My dad nodded slowly, understanding finally flickering in his eyes. My mom wiped a tear from her cheek. "What do we do now?" she asked. I looked at her directly. "That's up to you." They thought an apology would fix everything. But apologies don't erase years of being treated like an afterthought. Not this time. Now they had to prove they were willing to change. Words were easy. Change, that was the hard part. After they left that day, I didn't feel closure. I didn't feel like anything had truly been repaired. Yes, they admitted what they did. Yes, they said they were sorry. But I had heard all of that before. It was what followed, the actions, that always told the real story. And this time, I wasn't listening to words. I was waiting for proof. For the first time in my life, I didn't reach out first. I didn't text them updates. I didn't check in. I didn't make sure they were okay. This time, they would have to be the ones to do the work. And at first, nothing came. Days went by, then a week, then 2. And that silence? That was the proof I needed. Because when I stopped putting in the effort, there was no effort at all. I should have known better. Deep down, I probably did. But somehow, even after everything, it still hurt. It wasn't until the 3rd week of silence that something began to shift. It was an ordinary Tuesday when my mom called. I let it ring and go to voicemail. A moment later, a message came through. Mom, hey sweetheart, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to maintain the distance I had worked so hard to establish. But another part, the one still holding on to the hope that maybe they did care, hesitated. I didn't reply. Not yet. The next day, my dad reached out too. Dad, miss you, kid. Let's get dinner sometime. I stared at his text, torn between hesitation and the quiet, cautious stir of something softer. Not because I was ready to forgive. Not because I was ready to forget. But because, for the first time, they were making the effort. So I agreed. Not to start over. Not to sweep everything under the rug. But to see if they were really willing to meet me halfway. We met at a small, quiet restaurant, just the 3 of us. Ethan wasn't there. That alone told me they were finally paying attention. As we sat down, something unfamiliar happened. They asked about me. Not about Ethan. Not about work. Not about whether I could help with something. Just me. I wasn't sure if it was genuine or if they were simply trying to patch things over. But for once, they were listening, really listening. And that was something new. Halfway through dinner, my mom cleared her throat. Her voice was careful, deliberate. We've been thinking a lot about what you said. About how we've treated you. I sipped my water, saying nothing. She continued. We realized we've always assumed you didn't need us the way Ethan did. That because you were strong and independent, we didn't have to try as hard. I looked at her, surprised by the honesty. She swallowed. And now we know that was wrong. I turned to my dad. He nodded. We see it now, Rachel. We really do. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Those were the words I had been waiting to hear my entire life, and yet, a part of me still wasn't ready to believe them. Not entirely. Not yet. But something had changed. Not in a dramatic, everything is healed way. More like a quiet, maybe this time they mean it way. It would take more than words to fix what had been broken. But for the first time, they were the ones taking the first steps. And for now, that was enough. The real test came a week later, my birthday. History had taught me not to expect much. Ethan's birthdays had always been a big event. Mine? A text, maybe a card, if they remembered. So I told myself I didn't care. I told myself I wouldn't hope. And yet, that morning, a small part of me still did. At exactly 10 o'clock, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I set down my coffee, confused, and opened it. My parents were standing there. My mom held a cake. My heart skipped a beat. Happy birthday, sweetheart, she said, offering a cautious smile. I blinked. You remembered. My dad chuckled softly. Of course we did. And for once, I believed him. They didn't just drop off the cake and leave. They stayed. We spent a quiet, easy afternoon together. No tension, no rushed conversations. Just the 3 of us, talking, laughing, catching up. The cake was a little too sweet, but it was perfect because it was mine. There was no sense that I was an afterthought. For the first time in years, it felt like they genuinely wanted to be there. A few weeks later, they proved it again. I had a big work presentation, something I had briefly mentioned over dinner. I hadn't expected them to remember. But on the morning of the event, my phone lit up. Mom, Thinking of you today. You're going to do great. Dad, let us know how it goes, kiddo. Proud of you no matter what. I stared at the screen, stunned. They had never done that before. Remembering the small things, that was new. Things weren't perfect. My mom still occasionally defended Ethan, and my dad still struggled to express himself beyond a few words. But the difference? They caught themselves now. They noticed when they slipped, and they tried to do better. That made all the difference. A few months later, my mom called me not for help, not because she needed anything, just to talk. At one point, she sighed. I know it's going to take time for you to trust us again. I swallowed hard. Yeah, there was a pause. But we're not giving up, Rachel, she said softly. You're too important to us. My throat tightened, because for the first time, I believed her. Change didn't come all at once. There were still moments I caught myself waiting for things to fall apart again, expecting them to revert back to old habits. But weeks passed, then months, and they kept showing up. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't perfect. But slowly, steadily, they were proving that I mattered. One evening, I sat on my back porch sipping tea when my phone buzzed. Mom, thinking of you. How's your week going? I stared at the message for a moment, warmth rising in my chest. That simple text, something so small, wouldn't have existed a year ago. A few weeks after that, another surprise. I had been planning a solo vacation. Just me. No fuss, no input from anyone else. I hadn't told them much. I didn't want their opinions clouding my excitement. Then, over dinner, my dad asked, So, when's your trip? I blinked. You remember? He grinned. Of course. Italy, right? My mom nodded. We were just talking about it the other day. Do you need help with anything? Packing? Planning? I waited for the catch. But there wasn't one. They weren't offering because they wanted something in return. They just wanted to be included in my life. That was new. The night before my flight, I got a message from Ethan. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. Ethan, Mom won't say it, but she's freaking out about you traveling alone. You know how she is. I rolled my eyes. Of course. Then another message came through. Ethan, you're really doing it, huh? Living your life on your own terms. I hesitated before replying. Me, yeah, I am. There was a pause. Then, Ethan, that's kind of badass, sis. As I stepped off the plane in Rome, I felt the weight of the last year settle over me. I had spent most of my life waiting to be seen, to be included, to finally feel like I belonged. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I was choosing myself. And in doing that, somehow, they had finally learned how to show up for me. A few days into my trip, I was sitting at a small cafe, espresso in hand, when my phone buzzed. It was a group message. Mom, we just saw your latest photos. Rome looks incredible. Call us soon. We miss you. I smiled. Not because I needed their approval, but because for the first time, they weren't just saying the words. They meant them. And for once, that was enough. You should never have to beg for love. You shouldn't have to fight just to be seen. And if the people around you can't recognize your worth, choose yourself, because sometimes it's only when you stop waiting to be noticed that they finally start to see you.